Welcome back to another episode of Swamp Stories. For this episode, we head back to Los Angeles, and this topic is going to be out of the ordinary. It's real history that many people do not know about. But before we get into it, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new. You can also follow the new Swamp Stories Instagram page where you can send a DM to request a video. So let's get into it. Here we are, back in the legendary South Central LA. And for this video, we cover a specific area that hasn't really been covered yet. And when I heard about this story, it really blew my mind. But in order to tell the story, let me cover some ground of the geography of South Central. South Central LA is divided into more than 50 sections. Each section has their own set of allies and opposition. On this channel, we cover the Hoovers, who stretch from Vernon down to Imperial. We also cover the 5-5 neighborhood and the 5-7. But that doesn't even cover nearly a fraction of what goes on in South Central, and especially these days with the shifting demographics of LA. So in this video, we focus on a specific area on the east side of South Central. The area is called Florence Graham, and it's located south of Slauson Avenue, east of Interstate 110, and goes all the way down to Huntington Park. Well, pretty much the Florence Graham area is split into two sections, and this story is insane. But before we get into it, let me run the intro. Let me introduce you to the East Coast Neighborhood Crips. They fall under the neighborhood umbrella, and there are 7 sets of them in just this small area. Starting off with the 5'9", the 6 deuce, the 6'6", the 6'8", the 6'9", the 7'9", and finally the 8'9". One thing about them is that they're all united and they rock together when things get real. They were actually featured on Hood Vlogs a couple of years ago, and that's where they gained some national attention. But honestly, the current state of them does not represent what they used to be. Their size has really depleted over the years. So let's take it back to the start. It all started with a legendary man named Raymond Washington. Born and raised on 64th and San Pedro, Washington along with Tookie Williams were the founders of the Crips. But when Raymond Washington was released in 1978, he formed his own. Still in alliance with Tookie and the rest, he called them the East Coast. This was in order to represent that they are on the east side of South Central. These rivalries never really stopped, in the sense that they made a truce or something, because that's certainly not the case. But what happened is that new rivals were made right in their backyard. These next guys I'm going to talk about were always, well, some would say they were always cool with each other. Others say that they simply dealt with each other. But either way, there were no problems until the year 2000. For decades, they all shared a neighborhood and never bumped heads. Let me introduce you to Florencia 13, one of the oldest groups in LA. Although they started back in the 1960s, Florencia made their name in 1971 after an incident that made national news. May 21st, 1971. A Florencia man named Trinidad Iglesias, also known as Trini, would be on Florence Avenue with a few friends. Well, it so happens that there's some sheriffs in the area as well, investigating a recent incident. In order to investigate, an officer named Gary Saunders walks up to Trini to ask him some questions. Trini then runs away, turns around the corner, and runs up the steps of an apartment building. Officer Saunders follows him up the steps, and bam! This incident was a huge deal, and it made news all across the state. But it made even bigger news when Trini was only given 4 years. Despite having all kinds of evidence, he was given the lightest possible time for it. How this happened? Who knows, but it is California after all. Well, Trini would get out in 1975. So let's head to December of 1978. Trinidad Iglesias' brother, George Iglesias, had allegedly failed to pay back some money. So let's say that he was given medicine, and he's a doctor of course, and he was supposed to give out the liquid medicine to patients and receive money for it. Well, it turns out George never paid the money back. Bam! Well, that's the official story of what happened, as told by LA Times. But Trinidad had a different idea of what happened. He thought that the sheriffs did it because they were upset about what happened in 1971. He really felt like they were upset that he only got 4 years. Trini was convinced that they were responsible no matter what, so he figured that he would handle it himself. Just days later, Trini would be in Huntington Park, which is just east of the Florence area. He would be outside all day waiting to run into a sheriff. And finally, he would see a sheriff inside of a restaurant. So Trini would enter the restaurant and wait, while the sheriff would get up and walk to the bathroom, and so would Trini. Bam! Well, thankfully, the man whose name is Dan Senf would end up being okay, and Trinidad Iglesias would once again go down for it. Round 2. What would happen this time? Anyone want to guess? Check it out. Trini would end up beating the charge due to the jury saying that he seemed too nice to do something like that. Literally, a woman on the jury was quoted as saying, "He just looked like he wouldn't do something like that." But wait a minute, he had literally done the same thing 7 years ago. How could you even say that? But remember, this is California, so things are different. Well, I hope this story was interesting enough, so let's explore some more Florencia. The Florencia territory is much larger than East Coast. They cover most of Huntington Park and the Florence area of South Central. They border the East Coast and overlap in some places as well. But for decades, they coexisted in the same area. F-13 had their rivals and East Coast had their own. In fact, they even worked together sometimes, but that ended up being the beginning of the downfall. The reason they worked together is because they both made money in the exact same way, distributing things that, let's say, are the opposite color of black and the opposite texture of water. Well, in the late 1990s, they decided that they could help each other out and increase their profits. This is when things got crazy. The year 2000. While F-13 and East Coast are in business together, F-13 pay a group of 6'8" East Coast members to transport something for them. They would give them a car which contained 200 to 300 keys in it. And when I'm talking about keys, the things that open the doors. That's right, YouTube. And for those who don't know, that is a ton of money. Like life-changing money. Well, the life-changing money part, that's exactly what the East Coast guys thought as well. They thought that this could change their lives. So instead of transporting it, they decided to keep it. Well, the Florencia leader named Arturo Castellanos, he would get news of this and he was not happy about it, to say the least. Now, of course, the money was lost, but he would also take it personally. The disrespect shown to him and his guys was not to be tolerated. And this is when Florencia would spark everything off. It became on site. Every day was hectic in South Central LA. So let's cover some of the important events. So on some unrelated stuff, Arturo Castellanos would end up going down and he was sent to Pelican Bay. And this is where he would make his orders. He would order a cleansing of the East Coast. Interpret that how you want, but I think I know what it means. One thing about F-13 is that they use words that I'm not going to say. And for a while, they would graffiti it all over the neighborhood. For F-13, anyone who even looked like they could be East Coast was a green light. And this led to many random acts. October 11th, 2004. 3 men, Emmanuel Romero, Mario Moreno, and Edgar Navarro would meet up. Moreno would be driving and he pulls out a big thing and says, "Let's do this." So they drive all around the East Coast area and decide to head down to the 8-9 East Coast. They go to the corner store and see an older man outside. That's when Moreno hops out and bam! Daryl Denard was a 53-year-old grandfather who happened to be homeless at the time and had nothing to do with East Coast. Either way, East Coast was not happy about it. November 12th, 2004. Edgar Navarro is hanging out on the corner of Randolph and Holmes in Florence. That's when a car pulls up and bam! This was a big deal, especially because Navarro was only 16 years old, so Florencia would not be happy about this. And remember, for them, as long as you fit the description, you count. November 27th, 2004. A 28-year-old man named Marion Miller was standing on Firestone Boulevard in the Florence area. And just like Daryl Denard, Marion Miller had absolutely nothing to do with East Coast. He just happened to live near the area. Well, either way, a car would pull up and bam! For a few years, everything remained hectic. Every day in the neighborhood brought a new incident. And these reckless acts by F-13 caused the feds to take notice. That's because this was no longer street activities. Touching civilians crosses a line that should have been drawn. And the crazy thing about it is, for East Coast, this wasn't even their only rivalry. They had rivals all over South Central. Well, everything would lead up to Operation Joker's Wild, the largest takedown in American history. Turns out the feds had been tapping Florencia for over a year and collecting everything that they needed. October 16th, 2007, 102 arrests were made for hundreds of charges. And here's how it would turn out in court. Now let me get into my DJ Vlad mode. The feds have a 98% conviction rate. So of the 102 F-13 members, how many do you think got convicted? 96. That's 96 of the 102. That's 94%. So congratulations, Officer Vlad. That's close enough. Despite the big takedown, the new generation would carry on the same rivalry for the next 13 years. There are countless events that took place over this time period. Someone should write a book about it. But 2020 brought some change to the community.
So is it still going up?
Oh, everything's good now.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. But you know, how long that's gonna last?
Hey, as long as they keep on having a dialogue, which they do.
That's the main thing, dialogue and motherfuckers just, it's about respect, man. And that's how it should be, like old school back in the day. You feel me? Before it get ugly, you know what I'm saying? You holler at somebody, they can probably get a hold of it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, we gotta talk about this because the last time you was on camera, it was F Flowers. but there's been some dramatic developments in the last year and a half.
Yeah,
between y'all hoods and the F-13's hoods. What was going through your mind when you heard it was going down and these discussions were taking place?
I mean, the day I got the phone call about it, I'm not gonna lie, it was, like a nigga I didn't respond well, but I think about it, like I'm older now, I got kids, and it's a chess move, and it's a good one because I'm born and raised over there, and you know what I'm saying, I've been taking my kids up to Bethune, I'm walking to the store and shit that, you know what I'm saying, I'm still on my toes, but you know, it's comfortable. I run into them going inside of the store, it's, you know what I'm saying, it's Florence, East Coast. It's what it is. They happy just like we happy because like everybody, we growing up, we getting older, but it's better now. You know what I'm saying? It's strategically good.
Were you able to talk to any Florences like on a one-on-one?
I was there.
Yeah.
I was there. I was at the meeting. So it was a good thing to see. You know what I'm saying? You still had certain people on both sides who, you know what I'm saying, wasn't feeling it, who just didn't agree with it, but I mean, by my understanding, it started in the pen first. You know what I'm saying? The piece started in there first, and it sprinkled out here. It's been good. Like, that shit it's an enjoyable, it's a good feeling when you born and raised over there and you had to walk them streets. And, like, that shit was cracking every day. So, to be able to walk into a store with them and, you know what I'm saying, not really, you know what I'm saying? You be prepared, but not really, with your mind is not really on that shit like it would be 4 or 5 years ago. And it's lasted, what, it's been what, 2 years now? I've had so many niggas tell me when that shit happened, it wasn't gonna last. I heard that shit all the time, that shit wasn't gonna last. And it got tricky, but it's lasted.
And now I feel like we're progressing and being the bigger man and looking at the situation like, okay, hey, we're all men. Like, why continue this? You know what I mean? Let's make something better for the kids that are growing up and going to school. And the kids that are you know, that's the future. The kids are the future. So why do we want this to continue? Like I said,
it's a beautiful thing, man.
It is.
It definitely shocked. It shocked a lot of people. It's shocking. I was shocked.
Right. It left a lot of people in a maze and just, like he said, wondering how did this come about? You know what I'm saying? And that's, like I said, I don't even know. But at the end of the day, I'm for it, and I'm happy that it's, you know, it's peace now, because I mean, I want my son to be able to walk to the store. I want my little nephew to be able to walk to the store and get back with whatever he brought from the store.
The fact that these guys could call a truce and have peace in the Florence area tells you that anyone can do it. They even had a big barbecue together to celebrate the event. Well, I hope this taught you something about South Central LA, and I hope you enjoyed the video. So thanks for tuning in to Swamp Stories, and make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Peace!